Good afternoon. Welcome back to Passionate World Talk Radio Network, a wholly owned subsidiary of Global Media Network, LLC. Educate, enlighten, and entertain. And on today's episode of Lest We Forget Historical, we are going to talk about two men who influences the GOP, the Republican Party. Elon Musk and his social media X, and Rush Limbaugh, that's Limbaugh. He started in 1988 and throughout the 20th century. And he had a radio show which had millions of listeners. And he used his broadcast media power to influence politicians and control the president of the United States, threatening all of them with the statement, if you don't do as I'm telling you to do, I will make sure that all the people who listen to me will not vote for you or look favorably on any of your programs you wish to pursue. This article is written by Nicole Hemmer, who's an associate professor of history at Vanderbilt University. So let's start at the beginning. We separated ourselves from England from dynastic rule, dynasties, from king to son, from king to son. And oh, by the way, after Elizabeth I became queen and king in her own right, the English wrote up a new law prohibiting women from ever becoming kings again. And it wasn't until Elizabeth II that law was changed. So even then, with Elizabeth I, they feared the strategy, the mind, the intelligence of a woman. Something to remember. However, let's talk about Elon Musk and his power play with his social media site X, and Rush Limbaugh, who was for 30 years in the broadcast media business. He was the mouthpiece for his own political agenda for conservative Republicans. Right before the election, and to help Donald Trump become president, besides buying the election for him, Mr. Musk sent out dozens of posts on his social media website. In post after post, he hammered at the budget deal with a flurry of false claims and threats of electoral retribution against any Republican who dare support the legislation brokered to prevent a government shutdown. Gee, that almost sounds like blackmail, doesn't it? And it worked. Republican lawmakers turned on the bill, signing overwhelming pressure from constituents spurred on by Musk's post. Money does talk, but does that represent our republic? The Revolutionary War was fought to separate us from dynastic rulers. So, what is the incoming president of the United States telling you? Oh, I'm going to rule forever, and then my family is going to take over. I'm an oligarch. I'm Hitler. I'm Alexander the Great. I'm Napoleon Bonaparte. I'm Stalin. I can go out and damage or kill or imprison those people who dare to lift their voice against me. Remember animal form? 4 legs are good, but 2 legs are better. Freedom of speech is good, but I have the right to forbid you from speaking because I am all powerful Oz. Just thought you would like to understand the situation from a fellow American. Andy Pert Barr, the Republican rep, excuse me, Mr. Barr, for mispronouncing your name, told the Associated Press The people who elected us are listening to Elon Musk. And why is that? I mean, the guy's a multi-billionaire, but he couldn't have gotten there without the peons. We all know that. We're his biggest support group. Without us doing all his dirty work, he wouldn't have gotten where he is. And it's just money. You can't take it with you. Even the Egyptians knew that. I mean, who got all that wealth that the pharaohs put away in the tombs? Not them. Tomb raiders, pirates, people who stole. The British Museum, the American museums, every place but in Egypt. Think about that. So Musk uses X as his platform, and he is also testing to see whether he can replicate Rush Limbaugh's singular influence over the GOP and whether he can use his power to both amplify Donald Trump's political will and insert his own, quote, agenda, unquote. What TV fondly calls mad men. Here's an interesting thought. When Rush finally broke with the party leaders of the Republicans, his words cut a path of chaos and destruction through Congress because one person had all this power over millions of people and he used it to corrupt them. But they thought he was the Holy Grail and Jesus Christ put into one package. Unfortunately, it wasn't representing the will of all the people, for the people, and by the people. So we shall not perish from this earth. Does that sound familiar? Abraham Lincoln. Yeah, we had to recite the Gettysburg Address in grade school. They were great for us to memorize that. And the night before Christmas and all through the house. Yeah, I know. It gets a little sickening, but it works. There are periods in history I'll never forget because I was forced to memorize a lot of the things that went along with them. You haven't lived until you have to translate Caesar's commentaries when he was fighting. Yeah, that's a good one too. When he first started as a nationally syndicated radio host, Rush showed the power of the microphone over the power of the purse. Well, they're a lot wealthier these days, especially in the Congress and the Senate. Everyone is a multi-billionaire thanks to the way they keep on giving themselves raises. Yeah, the first time they tried to pass a legislation to keep the government open, they gave themselves like a $50,000 or $75,000 raise. They couldn't make it on $174,000 a year. Really? Tell that to the homeless. Tell that to all the baby boomers who don't have enough money to make it because the prices of food and other bills have gone up so high that they couldn't have planned for it 20 or 30 years ago when they first started saving. Oh, well. The politicians will tell you, well, you're just not frugal enough. You should be only eating one day a meal. And don't eat meat, it's bad for you. Only we're allowed to eat, drink, and be merry. By 1992, Rush had been on the air a very long time, since 1988, where he transferred both talk radio and political communication. He built a huge audience of millions devoted to him who waited on hold for hours just waiting to speak to him. And by 1992, he had 2 best-selling books, a nightly television show in the works, and the Year of the President of the United States. Again, I'm asking, is that how a republic is run? A democracy? We all are supposed to be living in a democracy, not a dictatorship, not an oligarchy, not a totalitarian government, not a high Hitler. All right. President George H.W. Bush was locked in a tough re-election year, and he came to Rush to be a bass whisperer to the millions who listened to them, i.e., influence them and their vote, instead of buying it outright the way Mr. Musk did. Come on, you do what you're good at. And he was good at talking. Bush had never won over the right wing Republicans, and Bush gave him and Rush gave him an open doorway for him to go through it. Limbaugh, who had supported Buchanan over Bush, received a personal invitation from the president to spend the night at the White House. And Limbaugh agreed, piling praise on Bush in the closing months of the campaign. Yeah. Pretty sweet deal. How does that translate to the voters who don't have that kind of passage, don't have that kind of access to the leaders? If we were caught doing that, we would be thrown into jail. It's against the law. Oh, wait, the Supreme Court said it's okay for people to pay a lot of money to become advisors and influencers, presidents to be. I forgot about that. And who put most of the justices in the Supreme Court? Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't forget Mr. Trump in his first term. Yeah. Republican lawmakers continue to partner with Rush over the coming decades, seeing him as both a powerful ally and a potential threat. And I think some of the Republicans are now beginning to view Mr. Musk as a potential threat. But what can they do? They've opened Pandora's box, and everybody knows you just can't stuff it back in. This came in the form of listeners overloading congressional switchboards with phone calls and emails on issues from immigration to health care. Whenever Republicans were cowed by the calls or just used them as cover to break with party leaders wasn't always clear. But each episode helped secure Limbaugh's legacy as a bill killer. That's not what's supposed to happen in our government. We're the golden child. Everybody looks up to them. Well, no longer. I think a lot more nations are starting to look down at us. In fact, they're even talking about removing the dollar, and they've been doing this kind of talking for a long time as being the universal money, as the money to get rid of and use something else, because they no longer see America as a big, powerful, democratic country, but as a loser. And compared to most of the other countries, we are losers. In 300 years, we've managed to undo everything that our forefathers conceived in liberty for the benefit of all man and women. And we've destroyed it. We're right up there with the Roman Empire. Limbaugh had the power to destroy, but not create. And this is something Musk is beginning to learn about his own political postings. Hours into Musk's online tirade, Trump and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance joined in pressuring Republicans to oppose the deal. They're not supposed to do that. The president's supposed to be fair and equal to everyone who he has the ability to govern. Vice presidents are not supposed to threaten their constituents, the people putting into office, and tell them, no, you can't do that. You can't say that. I'm not going to allow it. And they did. They scuttled the bipartisan agreement and substituted a Musk-Trump alternative that went up for a vote the next day. Unfortunately for them, it failed too. A government shutdown was only avoided with hours to spare and without a debt ceiling hike. Trump's chief demand. Excuse me, do you know what a debt ceiling limit is? It means you can only spend so much money and that's it. And what Trump wanted to do was to get rid of it altogether so he can spend as much money as he wanted and printed and beggar this country. And guess what? He's not the only oligarch to do that. All the kings in England and France and Japan and China, the emperors, they all done it, bankrupt their country on wars and frivolous amusements. I mean, that's why the French War Revolution started, supposedly over cake, but that's not true either. However, you have to be very careful what you listen to and then check it and make sure it's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth shall help you. Otherwise, America is not going to remain America for very long. So, what is any difference between the two men? They call it the Trump factor. Musk does diverge from Limbaugh in important ways. While the radio host built his audience, Musk bought his. Very important, money speaks. He may be able to amplify a message, but there's no evidence that he can build a political movement. No, but he can bring in people who can. They use that for riots to incite people. They bring in a few chosen professionals who are paid to stir up the crowd, and after that, it doesn't matter, does it? The riot has begun. He does have something that Rush does not have: billions of dollars to burn. And Limbaugh can only bully politicians. Musk, he can buy them. The other major difference between the two is the Trump factor. Since Reagan left the White House, no Republican politician has found a way to build a worshipful following. That created a vacuum for Rush to fill in 2009. Conservative magazine National Review even dubbed Limbaugh in as the, quote, leader of the opposition, unquote, even though the party had two actual opposition leaders, Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden, in Congress. But Trump filled that power void, which means if Musk wants to be more than Trump's ventriloquist, puppet master, he would have to go up against someone who has an audience of millions, a net worth of billions, and the power of the U.S. federal government at his command. And if you're not worried, ladies and gentlemen, you should be very, very, very worried. And the thought is that Trump won't be in power forever. Well, that remains to be seen. One of the keys to Rush's success was his longevity. His influence stretched across 5 presidential administrations. The second Trump administration may not be the apex of Musk's political influence, but it's just the beginning, and he'll learn along the way. So Republican legislators may want to think twice before handing their power over to an anti-democratic and unpredictable billionaire. He's going to claim all of space as his own and then sell it off to the wealthy people. A, he doesn't have that legal right. Space does not belong to him. And number 2, somebody else may have already claimed it. So what is he going to do? But that doesn't bother Musk, does it? Because he's a billionaire and he thinks he can do anything he wants. And so far, he's been right. So that is what people should consider for the next 4 years with Mr. Musk, and decide whether or not they want to continue living under an oligarch, a potential oligarch, Mr. Donald Trump and his vice president Vance, or they want to be ruled by a billionaire. It's up to you to decide what you prefer, or will you become a resistor and fight back? Because America, my America, is not for sale. Thank you very much for listening to today's episode with your host, Lillian Caldwell. Go over to Passionate World Talk Radio Network.com. Scroll down to the bottom of the page where you see State of Current Affairs. Click on it. It will take you to a web page where you will see a Google link, and that will take you inside the belly of the beast. So you can see all the videos that we have done and listen to all the audios that we've done for our different and various podcast shows. We have a new host joining us in January, Tammy Davis, and she is going to be doing a program on mindfulness and knowing who you are inside And before you can go out and conquer the world, you have to love yourself and like yourself. And you will enjoy the program immensely. I guarantee it. This is brought to you by a publishing company who will help you write and get out your memoirs, your experiences, your likes, your dislikes, your life, so everybody knows what you've been doing for the last 3,000 years. Yes, I believe in reincarnation. Energy is never lost, it is just reconverted and used in different things and different people. Yes, I believe that. Also, the obstacles of podcasting, and you receive 2 months of training, an hour, Monday through Friday, interactive. You get to practice what you're taught, and then you're given 3 podcasts to create and put on PWTRN for 3 consecutive weeks. So check it out. Go over to education.passionworldtalkradionetwork.com and see that you need to make this investment. It is for any child in elementary, middle, or high school, junior college, 4-year school, technical school. The future is here. Science fiction is already here. They even have eyeglasses with AI in them that you can see and hear and accomplish anything you want. So take advantage and go over to Lillian, with AI with Lillian, LILLIAN.com. Check out the demo. This app does everything for you. It can't prepare your meals, but it certainly can give you fantastic recipes or help you when you need to meditate or to take care of a child who just won't go to sleep. It can do everything in one spot, plus a cup of coffee and a donut that you purchase at Starbucks or Barnes & Noble or the Friendly Diner down the street. Thank you very much for listening. You can hear this on youtube.com/Passionate World Talk and Passionate World Radio Network. You can also hear it on Spreaker.com/PWTR, Instagram at PWTR, plus 35 additional social media platforms. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week.